There's a few options that we have at our fingertips that will change the way our viewport is being drawn to make it a little bit easier to see certain components, certain objects, or just kind of the workflow enhancers, if you will. The first thing that I want to draw your attention to are these buttons at the top of the screen. Now, we talked about these a little bit in an earlier video, but I wanted to spend some time really going into some of the details. And first things first, I want to jump to these spheres because these are often an overlooked part of our workflow that will help you understand how the render and how the computer is going to be drawing your shapes. Now, this is important when we're sculpting, because when we're sculpting, we want to change the way our viewport is being drawn, and more importantly, how the shapes inside of our viewport are being drawn so that we can understand the details that we're sculpting. And these options in here will allow us to change that. Of course, this is going to change our viewport draw options. The first one is just wireframe, and this is just going to give us a very simple wireframe outline of the model that we have inside of our scene. This is going to do a smooth shade of our object. So we're going to get some very simple lighting effects. You'll see some smooth specular highlights coming from the lights inside of our scene. So these are kind of the twoest kind of low quality viewport draw options inside of Blender. For the most part, I'm going to be hanging out on this one. From time to time, I jump into wireframe just to see exactly how all of my verts and edges are being displayed inside of their scene, although there are other areas inside of our viewport properties that will give us that information as well. This third sphere, now we're going to start previewing a simple little environment in here as well. Now, I don't have too much going on. If you click on this drop-down arrow, it's going to show you the environment that we're working in, and of course you can change it. So these are just simple little reflection maps that you can start to swap out and kind of get a different feel for how the lighting is going to be interacting with our objects, which is pretty cool. You can change the strength and the opacity. I'll let you explore that on your own, but that's what this little button here is going to do. And this last one, this one is actually going to be a preview of the full-blown render, which is pretty cool. So whatever your render settings are, over in here, we're using the Eevee render setting at the moment, which is the real-time renderer. This last option is going to give you a viewport preview of the render, which is pretty great. Now, again, this little drop-down menu here is going to allow you to customize it just ever so slightly to give you some good results. All right, so you get some choices in here on how you want to work with all of this. I've gone into this option here, and this little drop down has these matte caps, which I'm a big fan of as well. These are just smooth OpenGL previews of a whole series of different properties. Just pick one that works for you. Pick one that helps you understand your model and your sculpture in a way that's clear and concise. There's some in here that I would stray you away from, especially when sculpting. The metallic ones kind of get in the way a little bit. Whenever I'm sculpting, I tend to kind of hang out with these three for the most part. So if I'm ever sculpting with you and it's red, and you're like, how did you get red? Well, I'm in this viewport property, and I've changed my viewport shading style to matte cap, which is material capture, and I've just clicked on the sphere and I've grabbed that little guy in there. You can also change it to flat, which I've never used. As you can see, it's just going to flat shade the entire thing. And then the studio lighting ones are pretty cool too. So you get lots of choices in here with how your viewport is going to be drawn. Now, that goes for the global viewport. Well, what about specific components that are being drawn on the mesh itself? Note that I'm in object mode because this next drop-down menu is going to change based off of the mode that you're in. And it's this guy right here. This viewport overlay is an important part of our viewport properties because it allows us to activate and deactivate certain viewport objects to make it easier to see and to understand the sculptures that we've created. There's some in here that I'll definitely recommend that you check out. This under the geometry section, it's wireframe. And I like this a lot because then we can go in and we can add a simple wireframe overlay on top of the smooth shaded polygons, which is pretty cool. You can also reduce their opacity. So some folks like having real dark wireframes. Sometimes have a nice thin light wireframe is a little bit more appropriate. Point being is that you can change it. You can also do face orientation. This is really helpful when you're trying to troubleshoot a bug in the mesh. When the faces of the polygons are oriented outwards, they're going blue. And then whenever you see red, that means they're facing inwards, and sometimes that can cause some problems in the render itself. That's a good one to know as well. Okay, so if we were to change our mode to edit mode, this option box is going to change. And now we have a lot more stuff in here. Some things have persisted, like the floor, the geometry wireframes. But check it out. Now we can actually kind of turn on edges. We can turn on and off the selection faces, the center. Some folks really like having this if we're in our face selection set here. Now we can see the dead center of our faces, which is pretty cool, little dots being drawn on the polygons. So there's some really great customization for our viewport properties in here that's going to help you understand your mesh at a much more granular technical level. And sometimes that's how you solve bugs, is by going in and turning on, for example, maybe you just need to go in and look at your normals, your face normals, and see which direction all of your verts are facing inside the scene. So these viewport overlays is an important part of our workflow, and I really recommend that you get comfortable with it, so that when you're working on something, you're able to customize your environment to give you the result that you're after. Now, I talked about this little button earlier, and it's a good one, because this is going to turn your entire scene into X-ray mode. And you can see pretty quickly that now we're seeing through all of our faces. It's made each polygon semi-transparent, and what this allows us to do, and note that I'm in the polygon selection set here. I'm going to use my box selects, and this is going to allow us to select through the mesh and grab the front-facing polygons as well as the back-facing polygons. So this little object right here is a wonderful, wonderful addition to our tool set. It's going to help. It's going to help often, especially when making large selections. I love this guy. In addition, I definitely encourage you to look at all your viewport gizmos. That's all of these badges that you see on the outside of your screen. Some folks like having the compass on and these icons. You can change it. So go in and change it if you'd like to. And then these objects, and then this last pull-down menu here will allow you to go in and change the visibility of objects inside of your scene. Now, I'm in the 3D modeling tab at the moment, and let's see, there it is. There's my light, there's my camera, and when I'm modeling, I don't necessarily need to see the lights in the camera. I don't want to delete them from the scene. I just want to go in and turn the visibility of them off. So there's the light, here's the camera, and there we go. Notice that I didn't delete them from the scene. They're still active. They're just not being drawn in the viewport. Kind of cleaned up my interface a little bit to draw focus to what's most important at the moment, which is the model itself. So the larger point being is you have a lot of options in here on how to customize your viewport to make it a little bit more helpful, to make it impactful to your artistic process so that you're always getting the result that you're striving to get.